All right, I have two fun collab announcements that we are going to do at the same time. Wow, two collabs. So the first one, this one's kind of fun. This is the Hario Switch, but this is the Pepe edition, and this is the Goodswitch. So I don't know if you guys can see this. It's beautiful blue color. This is, installs on your Switch like so. So I know a lot of people nowadays, plastic is a concern. So people want to swap to a different material. So this is a different material. This is metal versus plastic, even though on the Pepe Switch here, there's Pepe on here. As you guys know, I love my frogs. We're switching it to this beautiful blue, the color that everything is, I love this color. There's a little quick Discord collab. I think there are literally only like a few of these made, and all you do is you install it onto your Switch. It takes 2 seconds, and there you go. And what we're gonna do today is we are going to brew a coffee collab with the setup. So we got dual collabs going on. This one is pretty exciting. So this is from Mirra Coffee, and it's been a while since I've shown off a hario switch recipe, so we'll do both of these at the same time. But this is a coffee from Mirra Coffee. This is a Taiwan SL34 that is honey processed. I know a lot of you guys really enjoyed the, I have a Bean and Bean here somewhere. I don't have the actual bag, but the two coffees we did with Jiyun, with Bean and Bean, those were a washed and also a natural, and those are geishas, and of course, those were fantastic. And I'm curious, this is the first time I'm gonna be trying this coffee too, but this is a honey processed SL34. We've just been seeing really amazing coffees coming out of Taiwan, and this is roasted by Mirra out of Kingston, New York. I believe that is where he's from, Will. Let's open it up, grind it, and brew it. This is going to be my Switch recipe, but more about, we're talking about the coffee, and if you really are into Hario Switch and you want to upgrade your Switch or, just make it look prettier, definitely check out Goodswitch, right? So this is pretty fun. So I'm gonna open this coffee up, and we are going to grind it up, smell it, and brew, and that's the plan. So with coffees like this, and with my Switch recipe nowadays, I'm brewing lower temperatures. I'm brewing in that 90 to 94 Celsius world, because what I think is interesting about the Switch is really this big body that you get and really nice sweetness. And as you guys know, I really love acidity and I do love dynamics. So all I do with my Switch recipe is just a lot of agitation. So this is vac sealed. This was roasted 2-ish weeks ago, so it's still pretty fresh. I would say for Mirra coffees, I think letting them rest for a few weeks is helpful, but I'm gonna open this up now and let's give it a smell. The interesting thing about Taiwan coffees, in my opinion, is they are very, very tea-like. They really remind me often of dried tea leaves, or if you've ever brewed a pot of tea or loose leaf tea and you smell those brewed teas afterwards, that's really what a lot of these coffees smell like to me, like oolong or black tea. And for those of you guys who like the Thai coffees we've done before, a lot of those Thai coffees have, I would say, a milkiness to it, or like a heaviness to it, I would say. Like I always say, a lot of Thai coffees, to me, it's kind of like black milk tea. I would say a lot of these Taiwan coffees are more of a regular tea expression, like no milk. And that's what this is smelling like to me, is these beans, there is that dried tea leaf effect here that I am totally smelling. And for my Switch recipe, I think for this video, I'm gonna use lower dose. I'll do 15 because I don't have that much of coffee here and I want to share it with some people. I'll do 15, but you definitely can adapt this to 20 and larger doses. And with the Switch, I'm using some of these faster flowing paper filters, so things like your T90s, I think TH3, X-Bloom paper filters, anything like that. I'll use the X-Bloom paper filter because I'm using smaller. I'm gonna do 15 grams. So it's gonna look a little bit weird in the Switch here, but it'll all make sense. And then I'll see if you guys can, here, we'll switch to the prettier carafe here. I think preheating not really needed, but as you see here, this is the Goodswitch. If I push it down, woo, very fast. All right, let's dump these beans in. So while that's grinding, let me quickly talk about my beautiful hario switch recipe, which is very, very straightforward. So, and this kind of really depends on what you're aiming for, but as you guys have seen in my previous videos with V60, what I'm going to do is all my recipes are basically 3 pours. So I have 15 grams, and I'm just going to target about 1 to 16, 1 to 16.5, even 1 to 17, depending on coffee. But the two things I think are very interesting about hario switch are the body and roundness and like sweetness of the cup. It's immersion, right? But because you're in this cone and you can play with some of these faster flowing paper filters, and you can play with things like wet WDT, what I have found is in the bloom, exactly like how I do V60 and all that, if you just agitate a lot of it, you will get more dynamics. But it's still within this really nice, sweet body, but maybe like slightly perky acidity. So that's what we're gonna aim for. Ooh, wow. So definitely you can smell the dry tea leaves here, like brewed tea, the dry tea leaves. Like this is 100% Taiwan coffee here. What is interesting is there is a little bit of sweetness in here, maybe florality as well that I'm getting. You know, this is a nice roast. I would say with a lot of these newer regions still, like even though I don't really think Taiwan is that new of a region, you still kind of don't want to go too light. So this to me feels like a comfortable level of development so far. But we'll taste it. I mean, maybe some berries in here, but definitely Taiwan coffee, definitely honey processed. So there is a little bit of layering there, fermentation, I would say. And that's interesting, right? Honey process. So we're gonna talk a little bit about my hario switch recipe, which I think is very straightforward. So I got my 15 grams in here, and what I'm going to do is basically just do my V60 recipe that I posted a few months back, but on this. And the big difference is going to be the initial steep step. So if you compare this to the V60 recipe that I do, all the difference is you're going to get significantly more body, and you're going to sacrifice some of those dynamics and clarity for just really nice sweetness, and I would say like a rounder presentation of acidity. And that's because the difference here is we are going to dump 60 mils into here, and we are just going to keep the valve closed until 60 seconds. And at 60 seconds, we open the valve. And then we do our 2 fat, mellow drip, high agitation pours, doing the exact same thing where we take advantage of the shape of the V60 or the switch here. We try to push all those fines out there to the side there. So the difference between this and the V60 recipe is that steeping stage. What the steeping stage does, in my opinion, at least if you taste this next to V60 or any of the cone-shaped brewers, is you just get so much more body and I would say sweetness. However, you sacrifice on potential layering and clarity, right? You don't get that delicate acidity anymore. You get more of that punchier, rounder, heavier acidity because of the immersion. And the other difference too is on switch, I actually brew at lower temperatures. So because we have this immersion step, I find like, this makes a really sweet cup if you steep. And if you drop a lot of those temperatures, like we're at 94, you could go even down to 90. It really makes things lovely and round and sweet. And I like that presentation a lot. It makes these cups super easy to taste. So this is the first time we're brewing this coffee though, so we'll see what it's like. I'm at 94 Celsius, but I'm just gonna dump 60 mils into here. And you can see I'm pouring really fast. And then I'm just gonna go in here, agitate, give everything a little, make sure it's all saturated. All the grounds are all, wet, if that makes sense. And what you can do, and this is the thing where experimentation of this is so easy, is if you want more acidity, you just steep for less period of time, and you want, more sweetness, and there's a trade-off, right? The longer you steep, you'll get a little more, muddiness, or things will be a little more compacted, but you get so much more sweetness, right? So on a lot of these wash coffees, if you want to just have more perceivable acidity, I would maybe steep 20 to 25 seconds. For a coffee like this, which is, I think, already smelling so sweet, we're gonna go the full minute here. So I poured in everything in like 8 to 10 seconds, and then at 1 minute here, we're gonna open it up. So you can see how these are pretty fast paper filters. These are the X-Men paper filters, and that's going now. And then I'm just going to do, once it's basically all steeped out, I'm going to do my 2 fat mellow drip pours. So my first pour is up to 160, 170. Gonna let that drain all the way through. And you can see what's really nice about these paper filters and a good switch brew is that a lot of your flow is so consistent. And you can see, look how dark that is already. That's pretty nice. And doing the mellow drip pours in the pattern that I like, at least, is you get all of the fines trapped up into the sides there. And then, when the bed is almost layered, almost drained through, we hit it again with this high flow rate mellow drip up to 240 to 250. I think if you use a shorter ratio, it's really helpful in making that acidity a little more perceivable, a little more punchy. But the point is the beginning part of where we agitate a lot and we let it sit there with the valve closed is what gives us a lot of those nice dynamics in there. I'm trying to basically give the brew at least a little more depth, a little more texture, and I'm willing to sacrifice some of those maybe more nuanced details and acidity that the V60 has. And but this I would say is a much more perceivable cup because of that immersion step, in my opinion, at least. So here we go. We finish up still quite fast in our 3-ish minute world. Depending on roast level, depending on coffee, you obviously can extend this out, play with the grind sizes, all of that. But we're brewing at 94 down to 92. We're letting the kettle drop temperature, and it just makes this a very approachable cup. So here we go. And you definitely can tell this is an immersion brew. So if you take a look here, you definitely can see that initial steep happening, right? The initial steep gives it this sort of, higher TDS, higher, darker color. Wow, that smells lovely. This is Taiwan coffee. This is, yeah. But, okay, wow. I really like how this smells. So, please feel free to play with that recipe and all of that. Oh, and then I'll show you guys this. And we're going to let this cool down a little. Is when you finish, I'm going to see if I can bring this closer. You'll see the same type of effect happening where the fines shoot out to the edges there and they get trapped into the edges of the paper filter. I'm using a smaller, a small paper filter here. If you have a bigger paper filter, you can take more advantage of it, but you get, the decently flat bed and you get all those fines trapped out into the edges. What I just want to take advantage of with this brewer is that steeping part and the fact that I can really agitate in there and try to push out more in the coffee. And that's why our first steep when I did it is so dark. So let's give this a taste. Oh, wow. That's lovely. Yeah, definitely honey processed. All right, so let me look at what Will's cupping notes are, and I will tell you what I'm tasting. First of all, what's interesting about this is there's this really lovely level of acidity. I think that's how I'm brewing, that's the grinder and whatever. What's been fascinating if you have tasted coffees from Taiwan and a lot of these regions is that it actually takes a bit of time before you get to a coffee that you can roast this light and you can get this level of acidity. And I'm getting this nice punchy round acidity, partially due to the switch, long linger of sweetness. And the two things, so I'm gonna try to articulate this. The acidity I'm getting is definitely I would say stone fruit, maybe citrusy in here, but then there's this just so much tea sweetness. It's like if you go to a boba shop and you get, I'm trying to figure out what tea this is, maybe something like like a oolong or passion fruit green tea, low sweetness. Have you ever done that? If you've ever been to a boba shop and you've gotten passion fruit green tea, or maybe some of those like the Four Seasons teas, or like a lot of those in-house teas where they add like all these fruits, but the base feels like a green tea to me. There's so much tea that's just lingering on my palate. It's also clean. Like, this is interesting, is that it's not like there's no dirt, no roughness, but it's a great expression of the Taiwan terroir. So if you enjoyed those Taiwan geishas that I did a few months back, this is right up your alley. This is like going to be right there. It's not as floral as those, but it's got this punchiness of acidity that is so interesting. We're going to look at the label. Beautiful label. And he said, lychee, honeysuckle, and stewed cherries, which I definitely agree with that. You know, stone fruity, I would say like a mix of a lot of fruits, but it's got that Taiwan tea component in there that is really nice. And this is an example where it's like, I think the honey process is greatly benefiting this presentation. And, you know, obviously we're brewing it on a super forgiving brewer here, but I can see lychee, but that's why it was reminding me of, you know, passion fruit green tea or any of those teas that you get with like 25% sweet. I think if you get like, there is that level of sweetness in there, like, you know, not 0% because I'm not insane, but it's like 25% sweet or the low sweetness option at a boba shop for the level of sweetness in here, but also, you know, you're tasting the acidity in here, which is really, really nice. And there's such long linger. And yeah, that was just brewed, you know, pretty straightforward, standard switch recipe that gives you great body, great texture, and this level of acidity with you know, nice dynamics in here. I do think this is actually quite complex coffee, and you could get some more details if you didn't do the immersion. But after tasting this, I'm like, yeah, this is actually pretty good as immersion, especially because there's this weight to the acidity. And this is a coffee that I think you can push quite hard. I mean, look at how dark that is, and it's not tasting like it's falling apart at all, right? So that's the cool thing, is when you do push some of these coffees a bit harder, you do these extended brew times, extended agitation, steeping time, and all of that, sometimes you will taste the processing fall apart, or you'll taste the roast fall apart. And I'm really not tasting any of that here, which means that we have a great coffee. It's been processed well, it's been roasted well, and it's just another fantastic representation of what producers in these newer regions are doing. Not even new regions at this point, but you know, you're able to take these coffees and actually push them harder. So I really think this is a fantastic coffee, and I'm very excited for you all to taste it. Check it out on the Discord. Dual collab here. We got the Goodswitch and we got the Mirra Taiwan SL34. So yeah, pick this up. I think there are like only a handful of these. I love the color here. Very pretty. And this is also a very beautiful coffee. So thank you guys so much for spending time to watch this video. That is my hario switch recipe for now, and also this beautiful SL34 honey from Taiwan. So thank you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one.